But the initial valuation was probably made on information that we had at the time, either compared to comparables or comparing to the last time we were at the property or any information we had available to us. So it's got to be very light about our use of incorrectly when it comes to that valuation. Now, as far as I want to clear up a little bit of your information when it came to the applicant's opinion, the value of why it wasn't called out for land and improvements, that's what they submitted on their application. They actually did a overall number and never split it out between land and improvements. So when we actually fill out the stipulation, we're going to fill it out in the same way that they apply it. And so that's why you don't have that breakout between each one. All the other components of the system, the land, the improvements on our side, is going to show that split. So
and that's what I'm curious about, is what that split would actually be, because in the following tax bill that they receive, it will have that split to show. And so
every single one of their tax bills has that split because it comes from our system.
Right.
So it's not that it's going to be new to them on the split. The difference is going to be the split is going to change slightly.
Well, it has to change to fit what the new value is, of course.
Absolutely.
And I would, while I don't 100% disagree with your correction of my saying it was incorrect, I'm sure from the perspective of the property owner, they wouldn't have appealed it if they didn't think it was correct. So from their perspective, it's not the correct value that has been placed on their property. So
that's absolutely right, and I don't have any problem with that. The problem is when you're saying something's incorrect when it comes to R&T code, there's some kind of very specific kind of definitions when it comes to the assessor's office. If we make an error, there's actually specific R&T code and rules and stuff that apply to that. So you got to be very kind of careful when you're saying that that was done incorrectly. It was done as correct as it could with the information and the experience and the time to go out to the field. Now, hopefully, as far as getting back to what you had described as, it'd be nice if that could get closer. You're always going to have these scenarios where some of them are very large changes and some of them are small changes. As my staff gets more and more experience, ideally that would shrink, but there's no guarantee that that will, and that is true across almost all 58 counties.
okay, thank you. Ms. Grant, did you have something to add?
I was just for point of clarification that there are certain errors that are delineated in the Revenue and Taxation Code that justify certain actions. And in that circumstance, error is defined within the parameters of that statute. Incorrect is not. And I think your board's point was clear. I would also suggest that in years past, sometimes the assessor would include a brief explanation justifying the stipulation when there was a reduction in value. Your board could certainly ask the assessor's office to provide a brief written synopsis with these stipulations in the future that may answer your questions.
I think that would be helpful to not only have us, but since this is us collecting less money that goes into our coffers, which is then used for services to our community, to better understand why we're reducing that, obviously to the benefit of the property owner, but also possibly at a loss to those receiving services from our community. It'd be nice to be able to explain what was found between the first valuation and the second valuation approval to approve of the reduction. So I do agree with that. Any further questions on this item? Or actually, we already did the questions. Unless there's more, we can take action. We already opened it up for the public. And we were on 42, 2019.
I jumped ahead. I apologize.
All right. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the stipulation for application 42, 2019.
Second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Pyska, second from Supervisor Simon. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Director Simon?
Yes.
Director Scott? Aye. Director Pyska?
Yes.
And Director Sabatier?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then we're moving on to appeal number 43-2019.
Okay, so 43, 2019.
If we can pause just for 1 second. I am sorry to interrupt.
Yep. Just to go back on the explanation that we had just talked about, and Anita said we could request. So, is there a consensus from the board on that? I would agree with that. So I don't know
For
the explanation. Appeals? Yes, for the future.
Okay. And do I see Is there a yes from the board to request for an explanation to be provided for future appeals? All right, thank you very much. We got consensus. And so sorry for the interruption. If we can go ahead and continue with 43-2019, and if possible, if you can provide an explanation with this one.
Okay, so 43-2019, this property is on the lakefront with a dock. Similar sales have equivalent lake frontage were used as comparables in readjusting this. Similar to the previous one, they only gave an overall opinion of value, and they did not break it out between land and improvements. On the assessor's roll, we have for land 421,957. The corrected assessed value, we put at 340, difference of 81,957. Improvements and structures is 869,349 on the assessor's roll. The corrected roll, or corrected assessed value is 450,000, difference of 19,349. And it was signed on 5/11/2021.
And you said the improved structure has been changed to 450? Is that what was that last statement that you made? Oh, you're muted. I'm not sure if you are responding because you're muted.
I don't know how that got muted, to be honest. So where did it drop? I guess it probably dropped at the 450. So let's start again. Improvements on the structure, we have 469,349. The corrected assessed value is 450,000, difference of 19,349. And that was signed on 5/11/2021.
And that means that the land value is about 115, is that correct?
The land value is corrected at 340,000.
What's the total
So
assessment?
For a total assessed value of 790,000, difference of 101,306.
I'm looking at 43-2019, and I see here it's assessed, the value is reviewed at 565. I'm confused.
Reviewed at so your 565 number is the applicant's opinion of value, which means that's what they suggest that it's worth. We have 891,306. After discussions with them, we settled at 790,000, a difference of 101. And the split is 340,000 on land and 450 on improvements.
So I guess I'm looking at just the attachment, and I should be looking at the stipulation. Let me take a look at that, because maybe that's why I'm not seeing those numbers. Because the application is what you received, and the stipulation is probably the final, and that'd probably be best if I just reviewed that.
That would be best. Because the application, think about the application as far as process. The application, as they turn it in, is going to basically say, we understand that you have, this example, 500 or 800 and something thousand. We don't think it's worth that. We think it's worth, in this case, 565. But at that point, we've not looked at it again as the assessor's office. Once we look at it, once we come to an agreement, we hear their additional information. In this case, we settled at, 790. So it's all based on that. Just the application alone is like the first step.
Okay.
Would be the,
Yeah, for some reason on some of the others, the individual appeals, I saw that there was further information on there for the corrected value, so I was looking at the wrong thing. So thank you very much. Any questions on 49, 2019 or 43, 2019? Seeing none, let's open it up for the public. Any questions on 43, 2019 from the public? Let's bring it back for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve stipulation 43-2019.
Second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Scott, a second from Supervisor Simon. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Director Simon,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 8.2. I'm just going to read the appeal numbers and not last names. That way I don't skip any specific name or butcher any specific name. Accept requests for withdrawal in the following assessment appeal applications. Appeal number 20-2019, 22-2019, 26-2019, 32-2019 to 34-2019, 35-2019, 36-2019, 39-2019, and 40-2019. And Mr. Ford, if you could please present on, do we have to approve each item at a time?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question.
Please.
Oftentimes, and in fact, accepting a rote of applications or withdrawal requests is not something that historically your board has had to do, except under particular circumstances. So I'm assuming then that these are all written requests for withdrawal that have been received, and the withdrawal came in after these were all noticed for hearing today? Otherwise, I'm at a loss. Normally, a property owner is permitted to withdraw an application anytime prior to a hearing, unless the assessors indicated a higher value. So I'm just wondering as to whether you have to go through them.
And Mr. Ford, wondering if you can respond to whether or not we
Sure.
received these withdrawals.
And I needed to respond to your answer is we have noticed in other counties that they've actually brought the withdrawals to the board.
And those
then
are
we have-
circumstances where the board has procedure that requires it.
Sure, and if we are okay and acceptable with not going through these, I'm completely okay with that. That was our, basically trying to do best practice.
Unless these particular appeals were set for hearing before your board today, and the withdrawal has come in since then, if these were withdrawals that had previously come in, I don't know why your board would have to accept these withdrawals. As I said, it's not a past practice. You have nothing in your procedures that requires it here in Lake County. And yes, you would have to take them one by one, but again, generally, according to the Board of Equalization, a property owner is permitted to withdraw before a hearing. So you can't stop them, in other words, from
Okay.
withdrawing their appeal.
So since these have been withdrawn based on input from the property owners, and if that is the case, and just looking for a nod or a yes from Mr. Ford,
Yes.
then that means that we can go ahead and move forward to item 8.3. Continue the following assessment appeal applications, and this seems to be a similar status, that if it's within the 2-year timeline, and I'm going to ask Ms. Grant, who I heard her turn her button on for her microphone, to speak up.
You have very good hearing, sir.
It's a loud click.
In terms of the continuances, again, if all of these many appeals have been set for hearing today, and there is a request to continue today's hearing, your board can certainly take them up one by one and continue the hearings to a date and time certain. If these requests for continuances are just that they just don't want to, they want to continue the matter beyond the 2 years, or continue the matter to a particular hearing date, or whatever it is, then again, your board doesn't have to pass on something that's not before you.
Right.
So, in this case, I would ask the assessor's office if these were scheduled for hearing today, and then your board may inquire as to the reason for the continuance as you take each one of them. If these requests to continue came in prior to that, then again, this should be within the assessor's authority, keeping in mind, as Mr. Chair, you indicated, that there is that 2-year time frame to have these matters resolved from the time of the application for changed assessment.
Okay. And so, Mr. Ford, just a quick question. Have all of these that are being requested to continue the following assessments, have they been requested by the property owner to be continued, or anything else?
Yes, they have, and so it's going to fall into exactly what Anita said. And again, this was trying to go to best practice. We've seen this performed, but like Anita said, this is Lake County, and if we're okay with doing it that way, then we'll take that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, this isn't a question of best practice, it's a question of a different practice, and Lake County always
Yes.
follows a best practice. It's just that normally your board doesn't concern itself with unnecessary matters.
And so if it was requested prior to the posting of the agenda, then that means that there's no surprise to the property owners that this will be continued at a later date. And I am
Yeah.
fairly certain that Mr. Ford will bring this to us before the deadline or the time expires on these applications. And so we'll go ahead and move on from 8.3 since I'm getting a yes from Mr. Ford.
Yes,
So
you
we'll
are.
move on to 8.4, deny the following assessment appeal applications on timeliness as no request for hearing received. And so basically, can you explain this to me, or at least respond to this question? Their applications for appeal were received by the County of Lake after the deadline to apply for a stipulation. Is this correct?
They basically had filed an appeal, so to answer your question, is they basically filed an application for appeal, and then we have not had contact. Last contact, as an example, in 2019, was in August of 2019. And that's the last contact we've had with that particular appeal application.
And I'm not sure of the rules and regulation if lost contact means that an appeal can be denied. I'm going to look at Ms. Grant for guidance on that.
As to each of these circumstances that are before you, where apparently there was an assessment appeal filed and the hearing set before your board today, if the appeal has not been withdrawn, there's been no request to continue, and nothing else has moved forward, then your board can take each of these up and deny these if you think prudent.
Okay. And is that the only status for these, is that there's been no further contact since the original appeal was submitted, Mr. Ford?
That is, do you want to take each one separately, or do you
I
want to
think
do?
we should. I think we
Okay,
should.
then let's do one at a time.
Okay.
So,
So the
18,
first-
2019.
Hold on 1 second, and I'm sorry to do that to you. I'm just going to
problem.
read out the item that we're doing right now so that it's open officially. So we're looking at the assessment appeal applications, appeal number 18-2019. And actually, I'm very sorry. Now Ms. Grant, I'm sorry to make this a very confusing matter, but the fact that it says deny the following assessment appeals on 8.4 as the heading of our actions to look at, can we look at these appeals differently, or do we need to re-agendize these in a different way?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm not following your question.
Because I know that if we don't agendize something a certain way, we can't take certain actions. The fact that it says deny the following assessment appeals due to timeliness, do we need to resubmit that and bring it back at a future agenda without that the headline, and that way we can make sure that it's appropriate to move forward? Or can we move forward and just kind of read it differently and just say review appeal number 18-2019? I don't want to make a change on the agenda if I'm not allowed to make a change on the agenda.
Just as a point of information,
And your microphone, please.
As a point of information, assessment appeals are not subject to the constraints of the Brown Act. So you may take each of these up and just clarify as you move forward, with the operative information being that the recommendation or the action intended is to deny these appeals.
Okay, thank you very much. Wanted to make sure we were still moving along correctly. So we are looking at reviewing appeal number 18-2019, appeal number 25-2019, appeal numbers 29-2019, 30-2019, and 31-2019. And let's go ahead, Mr. Ford, and start with 18-2019.
So as I said previously, 18-2019, basically the clerk has noticed the applicants and contact has been attempted to be made past 8-2019, but that is the latest contact we had with them. We have had no further contact as far as information regarding the property, and so we are looking for this to be denied basically based on no response.
And if denied, then it automatically stays at the $25,000 mark. And do we have any other capabilities? And I'll just be transparent in my thinking here. I think that on a vacant lot of 0.3 acres in the city of Clear Lake, the $25,000 is a very high value versus what it in my opinion, what it should be based on my ownership of property in the city of Clear Lake. It just doesn't seem to fit right. Usually it's about $3,000 to $4,000 per 25 by 50 by 100 lot, and this seems to be a 75 by 100 lot, and just seems a little too high. Wondering what options do we have? Could we ask for a re-review? Could we offer an amount, deny or approve the appeal? What Ms. Grant, what are our options here?
Well, I doubt very much that the assessor's office would be prepared to offer evidence, and you don't know that. I'm not real clear on the hearing notice that was sent to the applicant. Is it in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even look at, yeah, it's in the packet.
All right, so the hearing notice was sent and the applicant did not attend. At this point, if your board wants to be satisfied that that value is appropriate, your board can take evidence from the assessor. I mean, it's been set for hearing, but it's not technically, well, actually, it is subject to an appeal because a notice of hearing was sent and the property owner isn't here. That doesn't mean the appeal doesn't necessarily go forward. Your board could ask questions at this point to assure yourselves that the value is appropriate.
Thank you. And I guess I do have a specific question to Mr. Ford. Did you do a second valuation on this property, or was there not a second valuation due to the timeliness or the last contact?
We did not do a second valuation on it due to kind of similar to what you guys described, is we have many things to work on. And if it's not going to get to that point of appeals, we're gonna spend time in their lost response in August of 2019. So no, we did not do a second valuation on it.
And would I be correct in assuming that you have not done a second valuation on any of these properties in 8.4 due to that same situation?
You would probably be incorrect on the number 34, which is the 2019, 29, 2019, 30, 2019, and 31, 2019.
Okay, so the last three do have valuations, okay.
Yeah.
My opinion on this matter is if there is an appeal and we have a appeal hearing today, that not having a secondary value does not provide me enough information to just approve $25,000, which in my opinion is too high for a oversized lot of that size in the city of Clear Lake. And I would love to see a second valuation proposed by the assessor's office just to ensure that we don't put this property in a bad situation of tax default where they can't afford it, or that it won't sell because the valuation is too high and the taxes are too high. So I'd love to see this one come back with a second valuation. Any further comment or questions? Supervisor Scott?
So I have a question on that then, but if they filed the appeal and they didn't follow through and do the paperwork, I don't think we have to go back and lower the amount. They didn't do their due diligence and do what they were supposed to do, correct?
If I could respond to how I noticed them, I noticed all of the appeals via certified mail, and this specific applicant did send back the certified mail slip, so they did receive it.
And Ms. Grant, you had a response as well? Thank you, Johanna.
In the case where the clerk of the board has received evidence that the notification was sent in and the appellant in this case has made no efforts, your board can simply dismiss the appeal and take no action. You don't actually have to affirm the value. You can just dismiss it for failure of the appellant to move forward, and then the assessor's value will be enrolled.
I agree with that.
Any further comments or questions? All right, let's open it up for the public. Any comments from the public on item 18-2019? And hearing and seeing none, bring it back to the board. And I will not be making this motion, so if somebody wants to make it, they can.
Mr. Chair, I moved to deny the assessment appeal 18-2019.
Second.
Okay, so Director Simon,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Nay.
Thank you.
And then we have 25-2019, Mr. Ford.
Okay, so similar to 18-2019, 25-2019, no response. The last contact we had was 12-2019. Johanna could probably speak to how she noticed that.
Yes, so this one, I mailed it out and it was returned, well, it was forwarded to a new address and it wasn't successful there either, so it was returned to sender. And I called the number on the application and that number had been disconnected, so I tried everything to contact this person.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the board? All right, anyone from the public have any comments or questions? And bringing it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny the assessment appeal 25-2019.
Second.
We have a
Okay,
motion from
directors.
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott and a second from Supervisor Simon. Johanna, sorry for interrupting, but please roll call.
Sorry about Director Simon,
Yes.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have 21-2019. Mr. Ford?
21-2019, give me 1 second. You're not at 29-2019?
Sorry, 29-2019. I apologize.
Okay, you threw me off there a second. So 29-2019, 30-2019, and 31-2019 are related, but we'll take each one separately. 29-2019, we spent extensive time at that property, discussed with the representative, Russ Hamill, on 4/2020, and at this point, his Prop 8 valuation is actually lower than what his application's appeals value or requested opinion of value is. And so at that point, he has basically requested to be denied.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
Well, just this one, when you look at the numbers, obviously, 11 million compared to 1 million, just, yeah, big difference there. So,
Very huge difference for sure. And you said that Mr. Hamill himself requested to deny?
Yes, so we've had a meeting with him, and we visited the property and spent quite a bit of time detailing this. You guys might know the property or not, but it actually is Canocti.
Yep.
And so we've had to go through and get a very good updated information on our records on all the buildings, conditions of the buildings, conditions of foundations, all that information. So it was very beneficial for our office to update information.
Okay. Any further questions before we open it up for public? Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? And bringing it back for board action.
Chair, I will move to deny appeal number 29-2019.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Simon, a second from Supervisor Scott. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Director Simon,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have 30-2019. Mr. Ford.
So similar description is basically this property is related to the other two properties that are in question. Same scenario, Prop 8 evaluation is actually lower than the applicant's opinion of value, and same concept as we talked to Russ on Ford 2020, and basically about denying it, and he agrees.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Any comments from the public on this item? And let's go ahead and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny assessment appeal 30-2019.
Second?
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott, a second from Supervisor Simon. Johanna, roll call, please.
Director Simon,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
And last one is 31-2019. Mr. Ford.
Okay, so similar to the last two, 31-2019, their valuation is lower than the applicant's opinion of value. Basically, again, like before, we spoke to Russ and for 2020, and basically put the.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part of your sentence. You spoke with Russ for 2020, and same thing that he approved to deny?
Absolutely,
Okay.
basically what I had said.
Any comments or questions from the board? Let's go ahead and open it up to the public. Any comments or questions from the public? And let's bring it back for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to deny appeal number 31-2019.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Simon and a close second to Supervisor Pyska. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Director Simon,
Yes.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And that will conclude our 1:30 p.m. assessment appeals items. And I believe that we are now done, and our meeting will be adjourned at 2:24 p.m. today.
Thank you
Did we
very
never
much
call
for your
your,
time.
hold on one second. Sir, I'm very sorry, we went through all the properties. Which property are you looking at?
32, 33, and 34.
I do not see 32, 33, and 34 were requested for withdrawal.
No.
You did not request for withdrawal? Because it's under 8.2, 3219, 33, 2019. Let me just open it up. I have William Turner,
Correct.
correct? And this has a received date of 11/18/2019, so we're still within the right timeline. Ms. Grant, is there anything we can do to not waste this gentleman's time for having come to our meeting today when he is on the meeting agenda, just not in the correct, not written correctly for, it says withdrawal?
I'm assuming that the individual did receive notice of a hearing today.
Correct.
Then your board can take the matter up. Since this will be evidentiary in nature, I would suggest you swear the witnesses in. This gentleman, as well as the assessor recorder's office, if it's just a mistake as to the withdrawal, but they will have to be prepared to discuss value. If the assessor's office isn't prepared to discuss their valuation of the property, at least your board may entertain this individual's statements, and he can make his statements today if your board likes, or you can continue it over to next Tuesday if you like.
Okay. Mr. Ford, there seems to be a little bit of confusion on those three items, 32, 33, and 34. Are you prepared to speak on those items and valuations, or do you only have the original valuations for those three items?
To be perfectly honest, I have a little bit of background, but I'd like to do a little bit more research, so I would like to postpone it to next week if possible.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Schwanger had his hand up in the Zoom.
Oh, I did not, oh, sorry. You didn't raise your actual
His-
virtual hand. You
yeah,
raised your
you-
physical hand.
I'm sorry, on this one with Mr. Turner, I believe I talked with Mr. Turner early on this, and he had sold his aircraft for $55,000. And we used Rule 324 to state the sale price of his property was that for the appeals. I apologize to the board. I thought this was a settled matter. We corrected those values to a sales price as market value. So I do apologize.
Mr. Chair, perhaps the assessor's office can speak with Mr. Turner today to see if it can resolve. And if not, then if next Tuesday is convenient for your board, you may wish to inquire of Mr. Turner if that's also convenient for him. And that will be then an evidentiary hearing, so witnesses will be sworn and evidence will be presented as to value for your board.
Okay. If you have the chance to go up to the second floor and speak with the assessor's office and see if maybe it's already been taken care of,
Right now,
I would say, Mr. Ford and Mr. Schwinger, if you're available right now, Mr. Turner will be coming upstairs momentarily. And I'm getting a nod, so the answer is yes. And hopefully we do take care of it up there so that you don't have to come back next week. And if you have to come back next week, I apologize for the inconvenience.
Mr. Chair, you may want to set it for a time certain before Mr. Turner leaves, just in case.
I know we wanted to do these at 11 in the future, but I don't know what the next week's agenda off the top of my head looks like.
Second, Mr. Chair, I do have that. Mr. Chair, I think you could even set it earlier based on what I'm seeing on next week's agenda. Let's see. At this point, you only have one timed item, and that's tentative. It will be whether or not you desire to have a COVID update next week. And the public health officer is available to do so. And then your untimed items, you have the master fee schedule, and you have a progress report on Middle Creek. So you could set this for 11, or you could set it earlier.
Let's go ahead and set it for 11, since that's what we had talked about we wanted to do for future ones. And so if it's possible, looking for a motion to continue 32, 2019, 33, 2019, and 34, 2019, if not concluded with staff to be on next week's agenda at 11 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Simon and a second from Supervisor Scott. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Director Simon,
Yes.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Pyska,
Yes.
and Director Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we can help you out on the second floor.
what's the date?
That would be next week, May 25th at 11 a.m.
Oh, boy.
And I would say communicate with us
They
if,
clear it up upstairs.
hopefully they will. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you. All right, thank you very much, and that concludes our, the rest of our public session.
May 25th, 11 a.m.
Correct.
Because
But,
they can't take care of it.
yes, but hopefully they will, and please go right up there, second floor, all the way around the hallway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you, bye-bye.